This happened to me last year during the springtime, 6 months after moving to my new home that I picked because it was close to work. A bit about me. I'm a 28-year-old male standing at 6'4" and somewhat muscular. Now, I wouldn't say I look like a bodybuilder in any way, but I do work out to keep in shape. I love walking, and I'm grateful to live within walking distance of work. I make the most of the good weather by walking to and from the office as often as I can. Over the next few weeks, I plan to walk outside as much as possible to enjoy the air, provided there was no rain in the forecast. Suddenly, the path I normally took to get to work was closed due to repairs on a large section of the sidewalk. The detour took us down a road with very few houses on one side. On the other side was a park set back from the road. Now this park had several benches and a nice fountain. Large shady trees dotted the area where many people were often found reading, picnicking, exercising, and engaging in other activities. I, too, had gone to this park to enjoy being outside on more than one occasion. On this day, I was covering for a coworker who had become sick, so I was working his shift from 8 p.m. until 2:30 a.m. When I got off of work, I picked up a few items from the gas station next door and started making my way home. I had completely forgotten that my normal way home was closed until I was almost upon it. So I turned around to head back to use the detour. As I was coming up onto the park, I thought I could cut through it instead of going around it. I reached the edge of the park. It was surprisingly quiet, and I noticed how little light there was apart from the street lights. That's when I suddenly realized that instead of benches and a fountain, there were headstones. I stood there in shock, not sure what I was really seeing. At first, I thought maybe I took a wrong turn or something. But homes were all the same, as I've seen them hundreds of times before during the day when I came to the park. Now, I wouldn't say I'm a full believer, but I'm not a skeptic either. Pretty much, I'm undecided, but something about this cemetery was a bit unsettling. The trees were the exact same, just everything else in the park was different. The headstones looked like they were from another time, long forgotten. It seems like no one had been buried here in many years. I started making my way towards the headstones while trying to watch my step. Since it was so dark, I decided to pull my phone out to use the light to make it easier to see the ground. When I did, I noticed that it was now almost 3:15 a.m. Much later than I thought, since I was thinking that it wasn't even 3 a.m. yet. I couldn't quite grasp the situation, as I was so sure that this used to be a park. Just as I got near the first row of headstones, I thought I heard something off to my left, further into the cemetery. Naturally, I looked over, flashing my light in that direction, but I couldn't see anything. I just told myself it was probably just an animal who was spooked by me being nearby. As I started to walk again, I thought I heard a twig break somewhere on the other side of the cemetery. Turning around, I glanced over in that direction. I thought I saw a shadow leaning around a tree. Without hesitation, I quickly started heading towards my house, wanting to get out of that cemetery. About 5 minutes later, after speed walking the whole way home, I finally got inside. I couldn't explain it, but there was just an intense feeling that came over me. Once inside, I put my groceries away and went upstairs to change so I could relax while watching TV before heading to bed. After about 10 minutes, I realized I was thirsty, so I headed down to the kitchen to grab a drink from the fridge. Just then, I heard tapping on the living room window. Instinctively, I looked over towards the sound, my heart pounding slightly. I stared at the closed curtain, a part of me a little afraid to look. I know I'm a guy, and normally I'm not like this, but that feeling I felt in the cemetery really spooked me. It's just something I'm not quite used to feeling. The sound was still going on as I slowly made my way over to the curtain. As I reached my hand out to pull it back, the tapping suddenly stopped. With a deep breath, I quickly pulled back the curtain and looked outside. I stared out the window, feeling my heart pound in my chest, to see an old guy standing just on the other side. Have you ever seen Poltergeist 2? Well, he looked a lot like Reverend Henry Kane from that movie. He was very tall and thin, with thinning white hair. His face was drawn and pale, with sharp angles and hollow cheeks. He had the look of a living corpse. Seeing him sent shivers down my spine, since that movie freaked me out when I was a child. A grin appeared on his face, showing his yellow teeth. Just then, he slowly turns around and heads back towards the direction I had come from on the way home. I was thinking how weird it was and trying to figure out who he could be. All I know was that I had never seen him before. I went to bed feeling a little creeped out, not sure what to make of the events that happened that night. Luckily, I had the next few days off. The next day, I was outside doing some yard work, since it was such a beautiful day. Having spent several hours doing yard work, I took a break to grab a water from the mini fridge just inside my garage. I took a seat on one of the chairs on my porch. At that time, my neighbor Jake came out to go get their mail, calling to me as they walked over. We became fast friends when I first moved in, and we hung out all the time. He grabbed the soda from the fridge before sitting down in the chair next to me as we started talking. At some point into the conversation, I brought up the strange events that took place the night before. After I was done, he asked to confirm that I was talking about the same park that was just up the road that I went to all the time. I said yes, that's the one, and that I must have been really exhausted and imagined the whole thing. Jake finally spoke after a few moments, telling me that the park had once been an old cemetery from the 1800s. It was only a small one with around 25 graves. Apparently, the city officials wanted to beautify the town more and thought the plot of land where the graves sat would be a perfect spot for a park. With how old the trees were, they would provide wonderful shade for a few benches and other activities. Jake said that there was a rumor going around that the city never really moved the bodies and only moved the headstones to the edge of town. Then apparently people were reporting that when they were going through the park just after 3 a.m., it was no longer a park, but the cemetery again. With so few people around at that time, the eyewitnesses' accounts were often dismissed as drug-induced or drunken hallucinations. Though Jake has only known me a short time, he knew I wasn't the type to be on drugs, and I never drank. Personally, I wasn't sure what to make of it. If Jake had told me this beforehand, I would have thought the same thing as others, that they were on something. I know that many others won't believe my story either, especially since I still think what I saw was crazy, but I don't know how to explain it. My mind wants to try to dismiss it as being tired or overworked, but then again, I know what I saw, and there had been others who have witnessed it as well. I've never gone through that park at night again, and drove to work on nights I was getting off late. To this day, I never saw that creepy guy that was outside my window ever again.